So, this week has been something else. First, dire wolves. Yeah, actual dire wolves aren't just a History Channel thing anymore. They're walking around in Texas. Then over in Siberia, scientists are dissecting a baby mammoth that's been frozen for, over 100,000 years? And if that's not enough, everyone online is obsessed with these wolves named Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. It feels like the internet's not just watching. Maybe we're all helping rewrite reality a little? Anyway, I'm Sky Gracely, and you're listening to Spiral Emanations, where weird news, ancient mysteries, and the big, wait, what? Questions all crash together. Speaking of wild energy, I'm in Los Angeles, and downtown's basically been taken over by the NAMM show. If you hear any background drum beats, that's just LA being LA in January.
And I'm Rhys Barrows, over in London, where Storm Goretti has dropped temperatures so much that I've pretty much moved into my capes. Honestly, if you hear any muffled sounds, it's just layers of velvet between me and the mic.
So here's what's topping the headlines we're looking at today. First up, dire wolves have been revived in Texas using CRISPR. Yes, really. Second, in Siberia, scientists are doing a full-on autopsy of a baby mammoth. And finally, there's this worldwide fascination with wolves whose names come straight out of mythology and Game of Thrones. It's been a lot.
When you see just how much attention these stories are getting, not just from scientists, but from, pretty much everyone, you really have to wonder if all our sharing and fascination is more than just talk. Maybe, just maybe, the things we obsess over really are shaping what we start to see in the world.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't get more obsessed over than the animal science news out of Texas. The moment Colossal Biosciences announced they'd actually brought back dire wolves, like real living pups, the internet just kind of imploded. Dire wolf fever is absolutely a thing now. So, here's what went down. This was Dr. Beth Shapiro's team in Dallas. They started by taking gray wolf cells and using CRISPR gene editing. Okay, Rhys, I see that word everywhere, but what is it actually? It always sounds more like a TikTok filter for DNA than real science to me.
It kind of is, in the most astonishing way. CRISPR is actually something bacteria invented, ages before humans. Whenever a virus attacks them, bacteria use CRISPR as a little genetic scrapbook. They snip out bits of the invader's DNA and store it, so next time the virus shows up, they recognize it and slice it apart.
So it's like bacteria have their own secret blacklist?
Exactly. Scientists realized we could borrow that system, like hacking into nature's editing suite. With CRISPR, you can tell an enzyme exactly where to cut a gene, and even paste in a new stretch of DNA. Instead of crossing our fingers and hoping for the right mutation, we can be almost as specific as editing a single letter in a massive book.
That's wild. So it's not just mixing and matching, it's straight up rewriting the spellbook.
That's why it's such a game changer. Suddenly, bringing back something like dire wolves isn't just about luck or endless trial and error. With CRISPR, it's the first time we've had a tool that precise. And who knows what else it'll let us unlock if we're bold enough to keep exploring.
Right, so once they had this super precise tool you just described, they actually edited around 20 sites in the wolf genome. 15 of those matched dire wolf DNA they'd pulled from fossils in Ohio and Idaho. So that's ancient wolf genes, literally spliced right into modern DNA. And after that, Rhys, things start sounding a lot more like sci-fi, don't they?
And then it moves from gene editing to what sounds like sci-fi, but is now just biology. They take that edited DNA, put it inside a domestic dog egg, and then a surrogate carried the pups to term. So suddenly, it's not just one, but 3 new lives. Actual dire wolf pups, or as close as anyone's gotten in thousands of years.
And if you're wondering, the names didn't hurt the media frenzy. Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. You can probably imagine what happened after that. The story got picked up by every outlet, the names trended, and the memes. Honestly, chef's kiss. With all that attention, you know people immediately wanted to know. So, where are these wolves actually living? Turns out, they're on a 2,000-acre preserve in Texas. It's not just any patch of land. It's certified by the American Humane Society. It's USDA registered, like top-tier accommodations for a trio of Ice Age comeback kids.
Of course, whenever you get something this high profile, you get controversy too. Some scientists on the outside are saying, well, these aren't true dire wolves, they're hybrids. But Colossal says they focused on what really counts: size, cold-adapted fur, all the huge classic features people picture from the fossil record.
And Colossal isn't stopping at dire wolves. They've already managed to clone red wolves with a similar process. And they're working on projects for the woolly mammoth and, yes, the actual dodo. Honestly, I always just picture the dodo as this derpy cartoon bird that fell off the edge of history. Reese, what was the real story there?
The dodo's kind of the ultimate what-if bird. It lived only on the island of Mauritius, out in the Indian Ocean, where it evolved with no big predators around, so it never needed to be afraid or fly away from anything. Then sailors showed up in the 1600s, bringing dogs, pigs and rats with them, the whole shipboard menagerie. The dodos didn't stand a chance against all those hungry newcomers raiding their nests.
So it wasn't just people overeating dodo drumsticks and calling it a day?
Not exactly. The bird was a bit awkward and definitely odd-looking, but extinction happened because their world turned upside down, losing their forests, losing their eggs to animals they'd never seen before. Just a few decades after humans landed, they were gone. The first creature we really watched disappear.
That explains why the dodo always gets used as a symbol for things that are lost forever. Like, whenever something vanishes, someone says it went the way of the dodo.
Exactly. The dodo went from an island oddity to the poster child for extinction. It shows up in stories, in Alice in Wonderland, on old postage stamps. There's just something haunting about how fast it all happened. And now, with de-extinction, people are asking if loss like that is ever really final.
And it's not just the dodo or dire wolves. What I love is that this fascination with lost species is happening all over the world. Like, halfway across the globe in Siberia, you've got researchers at Northeastern Federal University in Yakutia, Dr. Maxim Cherpasov's team, who recently dissected a baby mammoth they found frozen in permafrost. They've named her Yana, and she's been locked away in ice for, get this, over 130,000 years. The mammoth was about 397 pounds and just a year old, and the head was so well preserved the researchers could do deep anatomical and genetic studies, which, honestly, is kind of a dream if you're in ancient DNA, or like the ultimate research jackpot.
It's the magic of permafrost. In the far north, the ground isn't just cold, it's locked below freezing, year after year. That means everything inside it, from roots and moss to whole mammoths, gets kind of paused. No decay, no time for things to rot away. It's like the earth turning into a vault, holding on to memories for millennia. When scientists find these creatures, sometimes the fur's still soft, there's grass in the stomach. It's the closest thing to a flash-frozen message from another age. Every mammoth is a little time capsule, and you never know what you'll discover when one finally comes to light.
That's so wild. It makes you wonder what else the planet's hiding under all that ice, and what kind of secrets, like ancient DNA, are just waiting to be uncovered.
And that DNA really does matter. Ancient samples like Yana's are basically the master reference for anyone working on these modern de-extinction projects. If you want to reconstruct something as close to a real mammoth as possible, or even double-check the techniques being used on dire wolves, this is the genetic map you want.
So between gene editing breakthroughs in Texas and these absolutely wild fossil finds coming out of Siberia, we're watching Ice Age animals leap from textbooks and pop culture right back into the real world. And honestly, show up in everyone's feeds, all at the same time.
Yeah, and it's not just that dire wolves are suddenly back and showing up everywhere online. It's the names that jump out. Romulus, Remus, Khaleesi. I keep seeing those pop up in every article, every post. It's funny because it feels like we're not just reviving wolves, but somehow waking up all these old stories along with them.
Right? And I keep wondering, is calling them names like that actually changing the way people see these animals? Or is it just a smart trick to get more attention and go viral? Isn't that a big thing in myths and fairy tales? Like, I remember in Rumpelstiltskin, the whole trick was figuring out the creepy goblin guy's real name.
Exactly. In the old story, this little man shows up and offers to spin straw into gold for the miller's daughter, but his price is her firstborn child, unless she can guess his name. She finally hears him chant it to himself, Rumpelstiltskin, and as soon as she says it, the magic snaps and he loses all his hold over her.
It's like the name itself is a kind of key. Once you have it, everything changes. I wonder if that's what's happening now with these wolves too. Their names are turning them into something bigger than just animals in a preserve.
There's this old belief that a real name isn't just a tag, but carries something of the person or creature's essence. So when people online keep naming these wolves after legends, maybe they're doing more than just giving them cool identities. They might be tapping into a really old magic, whether they know it or not. You see it even now. These wolves aren't just getting names, they're getting stories layered onto them, just like with Romulus and Remus, the mythic twins from Rome's origin story, supposedly raised by a wolf.
See, I always just picture that statue with the wolf and the two babies, but I don't think I ever knew the whole story. What actually happened with them?
So, legend goes these twins were born to a princess and the god Mars, which already sets the tone. But their grandfather's rivals tried to get rid of them as infants, classic myth move, and left them by the river to die. But instead, a she-wolf found them and actually nursed them in her den until they were rescued by a local shepherd.
Honestly, that's so wild. Raised by a wolf, and then what, they just started Rome together?
Pretty much. When they grew up, Romulus and Remus decided to build a city right where they'd been saved. But, like any good myth, there was this big rivalry. Romulus ended up killing Remus in a fight over where to build the walls, and then named the city after himself, Rome. Ever since then, the she-wolf became this powerful symbol for the city, like this primal force behind Rome's creation.
And now we've got wolves named after them running around in Texas. It's wild how, once those mythic names are out there, every other legendary wolf story starts bubbling up too. I keep running into Fenrir in the conversation. For anyone who doesn't know, that's the giant wolf from Norse mythology who's supposed to break his chains and cause the end of the world. I always get the details mixed up though. Reese, isn't there something about unbreakable chains and gods freaking out?
Oh, absolutely. Fenrir gave the gods nightmares. He's the son of Loki, raised among the gods themselves because they thought keeping him close might keep him under control. But he grew so big and so strong, no chain could hold him, not iron, not bronze. Every time they tried, he shattered it like it was nothing.
Crazy! So how did they finally trap him?
When brute force failed, the gods got clever. They asked the dwarves, these master magicians and smiths, to craft a binding no wolf could break. And what they came up with was this soft, silken ribbon called Gleipnir, woven from 6 impossible things. The sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain. Stuff that just doesn't exist, at least not in our world. The gods tricked Fenrir into trying it, but he only agreed if one of them put their hand in his mouth as a show of trust. Tyr, the bravest of the gods, volunteered. When Fenrir realized he'd been trapped, he bit Tyr's hand clean off.
Okay, that is honestly so wild. So what happens at the end of the world?
At Ragnarok, the great final battle, Fenrir bursts free from Gleipnir and goes straight for Odin. He's prophesied to swallow the king of the gods whole, and as he does, the rest of the world unravels. In some versions, he's finally defeated, but not before he changes everything. That's why Fenrir's always lurking whenever people talk about wolves and endings, and that primal sense that nature might have the last word.
Stories like that really have a way of sticking with people. And now that so many legendary wolves are in the spotlight again, do you think our obsession with these old myths and names is shaping how we see the real wolves? Like, are people actually looking for signs or deeper meaning in everything they do?
I think so, yeah. The more those names and stories get repeated, the easier it is for myth to blend into the way people talk about real animals. Suddenly, every news headline, every Instagram post isn't just about science. It's like we're all searching for something epic, or reading symbolism into what's basically a group of young animals exploring a preserve.
You know, that actually reminds me of those manifestation TikToks. People say if you just picture something hard enough, the universe will drop it right in your lap. Is there a myth you know about where belief or attention actually makes something real?
There is actually. In Tibetan folklore, there's this idea of a tulpa. It's basically a being or an entity that starts out as just a thought or something imagined with enough focus and energy. But if enough people put their minds to it, really concentrate, meditate, even tell stories about it, sometimes that thought takes on a life of its own. People used to say that under the right conditions, tulpas could show up, interact, even surprise the person who first imagined them.
So it's almost like if everyone online started really believing in these wolves as legends, it's not just a story anymore. Something real starts to slip through?
Exactly. It's one of those ideas that haunts the border between folklore and reality. Sometimes, if enough of us fixate on a story, whether it's centuries old or something brand new from our screens, the world seems to blur that line for us. That's where mythology and pop culture can start feeling almost the same.
And then, with Khaleesi, she's not even from ancient myth, she's from TV. It's kind of wild that a Game of Thrones name gets put right alongside Fenrir and Romulus. Does bringing in pop culture like that make this whole thing even bigger?
Definitely. Khaleesi opens a whole new channel. Now, it's not just mythology fans, it's people who love the show, making memes, sharing clips, giving the story this turbocharged, fan-driven energy. You get these moments where ancient symbolism and modern fandom just fuse. The story keeps getting bigger every time it moves through someone's hands or someone's feed.
It all really blurs together. Like, just when everyone's buzzing about the wolves, there's this baby mammoth found in Siberia, and suddenly Ice Age animals are trending together. Do you think that all this attention around extinct creatures just kind of rolls from one to the next?
Absolutely. It's this snowball effect. The mammoth gets people excited about the idea of the ancient world coming back. And that excitement makes it easier for people to latch onto the direwolf story too. It's like every time one of these Ice Age animals hits the headlines, it just brightens the spotlight for all the others.
So with the epic names, the pop culture energy, and these viral news cycles all lined up, it feels like we're doing something more than just reporting science. We're watching new legends get built, step by step, right out in the open.
That's it. As millions of people focus on these animals, naming them, sharing artwork, turning life updates into little stories, the line between headline and legend just fades. All that attention adds up, and suddenly these wolves, and let's be honest, maybe even the mammoth, start becoming living parts of our culture, not just specimens in a preserve.
Yeah, you really start to see how all that attention shows up in what people actually do. I was scrolling through a bunch of posts from folks who went out to visit the preserve, and there was this one that really stood out. After Romulus went viral, someone said they got inspired and just started sketching wolf art for the first time ever. And then, with all the Khaleesi buzz online, another person mentioned they actually named their new puppy after her. It's like people are finding these small ways to let the wolf story into their own lives.
That's such a good point. And it's not just the visitors themselves, right? They even did a wolf mythology special on TV. And at the same time, the preserve started streaming the wolves live online. While the wolves were trending, clips of Romulus and Remus howling together started spreading everywhere online. Like, it turned into this mini event inside the bigger story.
Exactly. And actually, that reminds me of this other thing I saw on Instagram. It started as a video of Romulus and Remus moving together in sync, but then followers started editing runes and symbols onto the footage, making it their own. What's kind of wild is that, a few days later, people started pointing out new markings on the wolf's fur that looked really close to the edited designs. Maybe it's people just seeing what they want, but it blurs the boundary between the online story and the real wolves.
Totally. And you can feel that same kind of energy in person too. After one of those big meme surges, visitors posted about a usually shy wolf coming right up to the fence and quietly watching a group of kids. Suddenly, everyone online was buzzing about it, like the collective attention was kind of nudging even the most reserved wolf into the spotlight. So, looking at all of it together, I feel like every time there's a new wave of attention around these wolves, whether it's trending names, viral videos, or fan art, you start getting these new stories and little changes. Art pops up, people name their pets, you get posts about weird new behavior, and sometimes even markings that seem to reflect whatever's popular online. It all feels like it's responding to what people are focusing on.
So, taking all that in, are we basically saying the wolves are kind of like receivers now? I mean, when everyone gets collectively obsessed, real stuff starts happening. Not just vibes on the internet, but things you can actually see in the world.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That actually reminds me of something I call the Promethean feedback principle.
What's the Promethean feedback principle? I don't think you've explained that on the show before. What does it actually mean?
Prometheus was a titan, one of those ancient beings from before the gods. He's famous for stealing fire right out of Olympus and handing it over to humans. Not just the flame you warm your hands with, but fire as this spark of knowledge, creativity, even defiance. The gods wanted to keep that power for themselves, and Prometheus said no, gave it away anyway.
Always love that image. But I remember there's a catch, right? Greek myths never hand out gifts for free.
Exactly. Zeus chains him to a mountain, and every day this eagle shows up and tears out his liver. At night, it grows right back, and the cycle starts all over again. But Prometheus never apologizes, never begs for mercy, just endures. That's what gives the story its edge, the gift, the price, and the stubborn hope that some knowledge is worth the risk. When we call something Promethean, we're tapping into that myth, bold, maybe dangerous, but world-changing all the same. So, Just like Prometheus sharing fire, when we all start paying attention, posting, sharing memes, diving into these stories together, it can change things in the real world. It's like the border between story and reality gets thinner. The legends we tell feed into what's actually happening at the preserve, and then those events come right back out and shape the stories again. It's a feedback loop, almost an exchange between the wolves and the myth.
That's actually kind of wild, or maybe a little unsettling. Just the idea that memes and hashtags are feeding into real-world changes, not just the way people talk about wolves, but what's actually there.
Exactly. We've basically built a new kind of myth engine online. And now you can watch the next chapter play out in real time, right there in Texas, with the wolves howling it all back to us. And it's fascinating how, when millions of people focus on something together, like those wolves, or any huge story online, it can feel as if the story itself starts to gather momentum. But I wonder, does anyone really know what to do with that much shared focus once it starts making things happen outside our screens?
That's what gets me too. Maybe it could really bring people together, or help out in ways we don't even see yet. But at the same time, if these stories just explode everywhere without anyone steering, what stops them from spinning out into something kind of chaotic?
Yeah, and that's always been a risk, hasn't it? Even before the internet, there were people in every community, storytellers, elders, whoever, who tried to guide or settle things down if a story started to get too wild. Now stories go viral in seconds, and honestly, I'm not sure anyone's really guiding them anymore, or even could.
And if these stories are enough to actually shift what the wolves do you think they could be changing us too? Like, maybe seeing this stuff over and over online is shaping the way we all behave, even if we don't realize it.
I think so. You can watch it happen. People's opinions and habits just flip so fast when a new story hits the internet. Sometimes it's like we wake up in a different world after a big viral moment.
It almost feels like one gigantic campfire, you know? Instead of a few people telling stories in one place, it's everyone, everywhere, all at once, just sharing whatever grabs us. Sometimes I think about how even something as simple as posting a story or a meme online could actually ripple out and maybe shape what's happening in real life. That's kind of exciting, but also, honestly, I'll probably pause for a second before I post another direwolf meme. It feels like the wolves are everywhere now.
Exactly. And it's not just you, Sky. So if anyone listening notices wolf things showing up, maybe a new mural on your street, or a friend who just named their puppy Romulus, or even just spot wolf references popping up in conversations, tell us about it. I love seeing how far these stories travel once they get loose out there.
Same. I really love how these things just spread and show up where you least expect. And speaking of stories traveling, next week we're heading somewhere completely different, Antarctica. We'll be digging into mysteries under the ice, so make sure you tune in for that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of all this. And from me and Reese, we'll see you next time on Spiral Emanations.